This is News 24 Live. I'm Erin Bates, and we're unpacking the Nkandla judgment in the Constitutional Court this morning. Recommendations or findings and judgment from Judge Mogoeng on behalf of the Constitutional Court judge, saying, for example, the National Treasury has 60 days to determine how much President Jacob Zuma needs to pay back. Also that he needs to take disciplinary action against some of the ministers involved in allowing the Nkandla debacle to steamroll and kind of snowball over the last couple of years. In studio with me is Lawson Naidu from CASAC. Lawson, I just want to come to President Jacob Zuma's lawyer, Jeremy Gauntlet. You know, he argued in court about possible impeachment, the political climate in South Africa this year. Is this the final nail in the coffin, or does he have some backdoor, some avenue he can go down in terms of legal matters?
Well, this is a judgment from the Constitutional Court, the highest court in the land, adjudicating a matter of fundamental constitutional importance. It ends here. The court, which is why I think the court took its time to clarify the powers and responsibilities of the President, the National Assembly, and so on, because it realized that this is a critical case that is going to be a precedent for a long time to come. It's a judgment that will be studied by scholars for many, many years. So it's really probably one of the most important judgments by the Constitutional Court in our democratic era. There is no appeal from here.
And I suppose also important, not only in terms of the content, but the people who are involved. If you think about the executive, the head of state, it really kind of brings together all these different arms and branches of power, and then asks very serious questions about who's who in the pecking order.
Yeah, and it clarifies, as I say, the roles of the executive, of Parliament, of the judiciary. The court went through the process of specifying and dealing with the issue of the separation of powers between those three branches of the state, the areas of exclusive jurisdiction, the areas of their primary jurisdiction, and the occasions on which the courts are permitted to take a view on the functioning of Parliament and or the executive.
If we look at Gauntlet, he argued, for example, that the judgment might have consequences in terms of impeachment of the president. What are your thoughts on that? And we do know as well that the official opposition, the DA, has already begun its process of trying to impeach the president.
Well, look, what advocates tried to achieve in that matter was to say to the court that there was no need for the court to make a finding that the president had breached his constitutional responsibilities and was in breach of his oath of office, because Advocate Gauntlet was concerned that that could be used by opposition parties to initiate a process of impeachment of the president within the National Assembly. The court said nothing about that, except to say that it was duty-bound in terms of the Constitution, that where there was a transgression of the Constitution, it was duty-bound to issue an order to say that there had been a constitutional violation, and the court did that. The court did not say anything about impeachment, and one did not expect the court to say anything about that. The process of appointing and removing the president is something that lies within the exclusive jurisdiction of the National Assembly. The National Assembly appoints the president and can also remove the president, either by a vote of no confidence or through a process of what is called impeachment. And the purpose of impeachment, and the real differentiating factor there, is that it follows on the finding that there must be a serious violation of the Constitution or the law, or a serious misconduct committed by the president. And it is a prohibited sanction in that if the president is removed from office through a process of impeachment, he or she will no longer be entitled to the benefits of that office, and no pension, no other perks after leaving office. So it is really a punitive sanction, and it is a decision that Parliament is the only body that can take. It is highly unlikely that that matter will pass through Parliament, even if there is an attempt to raise it by the opposition parties, which there may well be.
So if we think about talk of factions within the leading party, they've sort of brought President Jacob Zuma into office and kept him there. Is there any chance that members of a faction that's against President Jacob Zuma will try and push the argument or the idea of impeachment in Parliament, or do you think that's unlikely?
I think it's very unlikely. I think if there is going to be a process within the governing party to remove the president on the basis that the president has lost the confidence of his own party, then the ANC will find a mechanism, an internal mechanism within the party within which to remove the president. It is not something that will play out in public in the National Assembly.
Possibly because they don't want to give the opposition parties the pleasure of seeing that all happen in the National Assembly.
Quite possibly, yes. But if the ANC decides it's time to remove the president, they will do so.
Lawson Naidu, just before you go, the Council of the Advancement of the South African Constitution, the organization that you're a part of, where does this put people and bodies like you that are involved in looking at the Constitution, looking at the rule of law in South Africa?
Well, I think today is a day that can be celebrated as a victory for our constitutional democracy. This judgment from the court shows firstly, that nobody is above the law, that even the president can be held to account through the mechanisms that our constitution has created, that even where the president fails to deal with the report of the public protector, even where the National Assembly fails to hold the president to account, the courts will still stand up for the rights of ordinary people and ensure that the South African public are protected within the ambit of the constitution. So it's a victory for the constitution, it's a victory for the rule of law, and it's a day in which our democracy has been strengthened.
So the structure of the South African democracy, the rule of law, the sanctity of the South African Constitution, all woven into Justice Mogoeng's judgment. No doubt the opposition parties will be gloating about the outcomes of the judgment, and News 24 Live will be covering that this afternoon. Do stay with us, and Lawson, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Good.
Okay.